Thank you, fans. Yeah, that's the message you usually get when your season's wrapped up. As the Golden State Warriors season for 24-25 is officially over now, losing in 5 games to the Minnesota Timberwolves in the Game 5 closeout up at the Target Center. Golden State loses 121-110 and really wasn't all that competitive once the halftime break commenced. Not really much to say about it. Same things happened that we've been seeing since Steph Curry went down. And the Warriors' season is now over, losing 4 in a row to close things out. Serious changes need to be made, and we're going to be covering all those changes this offseason. The content game is only getting started here at Warriors Today. The best stuff that we put out is going to be these couple months right here in the offseason where things can get juicy and rosters could be shaken up. And we'll have you covered on the Dubs offseason every single day right here at Warriors Today, and we're on the road to 100,000 subscribers. So hit that big red sub button, join us, and turn notifications on, because if the Warriors make a move, you know we're bringing you a video. This is going to be a recurring theme throughout today's show, as I'm going to be treating this as more of like a little bit of an exit interview of sorts. I'm not going to go through every player, but just as a whole, I don't think every player needs to be talked about, because there's too many to talk about. This roster has serious issues. There are not enough good basketball players on the Golden State Warriors. That is plain and simple. And in Game 5, we saw basically a carbon copy of what we saw in Games 2, Games 3, Games 4. Like, what was different? It was incredibly difficult to generate offense. It was incredibly difficult to hit threes at a high clip. It was incredibly difficult to match the physicality, speed, and size of the Minnesota Timberwolves. Similar to the Rockets series, except this team actually knew how to play in the half court, and Golden State couldn't get away with having that same deficiency. And I want to talk about this guy right here, Jimmy Butler, because I don't really I scripted this show out, and I didn't really have much to say about Jimmy throughout some of the quotes that we've heard so far and what's going to happen in the offseason, because what we know is Jimmy Butler will be on this team. And I want to clap it up for him because of the effort that he put in Game 3, where Steve Kerr said that that's the game they had to have. I, on this show, said that's the game they had to have. Jimmy put in 33 points. And the whole season turned around when you made this trade. Like, he fit in seamlessly, and you went on a run toward the end of the regular season, a sprint to the playoffs, where you were on like a 55-win pace. And you get a spot in the postseason. Jimmy plays spectacularly, and I just think he ran out of gas over these last 2 games. He came in to Game 4 feeling sick. Game 5, I mean, morale's already pretty low at that point, going into enemy territory, facing elimination down 3-1. You would have liked him to be a little bit more aggressive, but I think at the end of the day, come back next season, have Steph healthy, and Jimmy can play off him as a 2. It is just going to be exponentially easier for Golden State to win games, and I think if Steph plays the series, yeah, it's a whole heck of a lot different, but the reality was Golden State's flaws have been exposed due to Curry being out. This is what Steph had to say about the loss and everything that kind of went on over the last couple of games of this series. So the only solace you can really take was that we had a chance. It's kind of the ultimate gut punch because of that. Makes it worse. You just don't want to go out like that. Talking about losing 4 straight and him not being able to be out there. It was just kind of a total disaster end to what was a really solid Warriors season, man. At one point, they were down to the 11th seed out of the play-in. And then they got themselves all the way up to, I believe, the 4 at one point down the stretch of the regular season. So hats off to the Warriors for putting things together rather quickly once they made the trade and playing really good basketball down the stretch. But it just wasn't enough at the end of the day. And there just wasn't enough creation and offense to be sustainable and lose your best player and be able to put up a fight. And was Curry going to return? Perhaps. Golden State was confident that he could return in Game 6. But Steph had said this, I believe before Game 5. He said, I have no idea if he could have played because I haven't played live yet. Only the reason was that was a possibility because we have 3 days. If you play live, you can check that off that box, and then you can go. But I never got that. And Curry went on to mention today in his exit interview that everything was aligned for a Game 6 return, but again, did not see the live court action yet, and that is the determiner as to whether or not he could actually come back. Would it have mattered down 3-1? Or would it have mattered down 3-2? Yeah, I probably think it would have, but who knows if Curry would have re-aggravated the injury, which could have led to something that lingers into next season. Honestly, Golden State, I think they would have had a chance to go at the winner of Thunder Nuggets, but maybe this is all for the best. Everything happens for a reason. And Steph, Jimmy, the whole crew goes into next season feeling rather healthy and fresh and refreshed. Curry had didn't really have an off season playing in Paris last summer. Joe Lacob said this about the loss. He said, disappointing. I really hoped we could extend the series. And then he paused a little bit. He said, I'm pretty positive if we had Steph, we would have won this series. And yeah, it's coping a little bit. And if you had Steph from game one, yeah, I do probably think you win this series. But you also put yourself in a rough position in the Rockets series, taking that thing all the way to 7 games and not really playing with your food in game 5 and kind of letting that thing go longer than it had to be while the Timberwolves got rest, packing up the Lakers in 5. You put yourself in this spot, and then Steph gets hurt as a result of all the tread on the tires, and then there was really no chance after that. And again, in the exit interviews, which are kind of going on right now at the time of filming, he said Steph acknowledged that it's a 2-year window. So we all know this, like Curry's contract, Draymond's contract, Jimmy's, and Steve Kerr's all up after the 26-27 season. So 2 more seasons left to go for these guys to really make that final push to go win banner number 5 for Steph, Jimmy, and Steve, and banner number 1 for Jimmy Butler. So this is the first time that we kind of have heard this out of Steph. Like, it's the first time that he's been broached with the situation that this is it, really, as for the meaningful basketball that he'll have left. He said, I want this ride to last as long as possible. But it's just about what does this team need for next year. So next year is really the focus right now. We're not looking too far ahead. Answering those questions over the summer, everyone preparing themselves individually to get through another 82-game season, hopefully with a little bit more comfort room down the stretch where we don't have to have a 2-month gauntlet just to make the playoffs. That's all I'm really focused on right now, and I'm excited about it because there's clarity, although there are a lot of decisions that need to be made over the summer. Yeah, there's going to be decisions to be made over the summer. And what did I go back with? And what we're going to kind of reconnect this all to what I said at the beginning of the video. This team needs better basketball players, and Steph had also said Jimmy Butler's fit. It was questioned before this trade, and it ended up being perfect. Now you have to capitalize on the 2 star level players that you have on this team, and get better pieces and get better supplemental scoring and all that stuff around them. Because I don't think what they have in place right now is just good enough for them to win a title or at least be in a confident position to go out and do so. There's guys that I don't think need to be on this roster anymore. Look, he played a really good series, but Jonathan Kuminga does not have a future here. Jonathan Kuminga does not have a future with the Golden State Warriors. He does not fit. He is more of a me guy than a we guy in a sense, and that just doesn't seem like it is going to be something that ends up being fruitful for both sides of the equation. Is Golden State going to give him all the money that he wants or the role that he wants? Likely not. And they can say they will, but when push comes to shove and you get into the middle of the season, Kaminga could be right back to the bench or maybe even getting DMPs again. Brandon Podziemski, I don't want him off the team, but listen, man, he played a really, really bad series against Minnesota, and that has a lot to do with Steph not being out there. That has a lot to do with him not hitting threes off of the rip and him getting into his own head. But he needs to be better, man. He's being relied upon as a starter on this team. I anticipate him being a starter again in 25-26, so he's going to have to take a major leap over the summer. And all this talk about him being a future all-star, that needs to get wiped from his head real fast because he just needs to be a better player. I would like him not to be relied upon as well as like the secondary scoring option off the bounce. Gary Payton, Kevon Looney, seems like it's end of the road for those cats, man. Looney's been on the team for a decade. I want GP2 to have less of a role if he was to come back. I can't have him playing 30 minutes in the playoffs. And was he going to get that if Steph was healthy? Who knows? But at the end of the day, those guys can't be playing big minutes at this point if Golden State wants to make a serious playoff impact. And Draymond Green at center, kind of just done with it. You can have him if Draymond Green is your second center. That's fine. Quinn Post is your third center. Golden State needs to go out there and get a serious player out there. Just too often, the Rockets series goes too long because it couldn't compete against Steven Adams and Alperen Sengun, and sometimes Jabari Smith gets thrown in there as well. And then you get bullied around by Rudy Gobert in the Minnesota series. It's just not feasible. Draymond, yes, he plays bigger than he is, but it's just not. Can we stop it? Can we be serious for once? Draymond in the center position, he says it's up to the front office. He'll be down to do whatever it takes. He did also mention, though, that if it was a situation where he would either have to start at center or come off the bench, he would want to start. But he said it's up to the front office. If they want to bring somebody in, if they want to usher in one of these new younger cats, they can do that as well. But I don't want him playing majority of minutes at the center in 25-26. Hell no. What do you guys think, though? Which players need to go? Need to hit the hay? Who needs to not return for Golden State next year? Let me know who you guys think it is down in the comment section. It could be one, it could be two, it could be three, it could be four, it could be five players. I think this roster needs a complete overhaul outside of 30, 10, and 23. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Again, you just need better basketball players. Plain and simple. That's what it comes down to. And I mentioned it at the top of that list. Jonathan Kuminga is the biggest domino that needs to fall in this offseason for Golden State to be able to make legitimate moves. Listen, he played very well against the Minnesota Timberwolves for the circumstances and the situation that they were in. They had to completely switch around the offense for Kaminga to succeed. And he was able to go play tunnel vision, I'm going to go get mine basketball. He has not been able to fit on the Golden State Warriors. He has not been able to fit against Steph Curry and be a player who moves off of the ball constantly and is constantly engaged. And keep in mind, all he did well in this series was score. Didn't crash the glass, wasn't a playmaker. Still turned the ball over a good bit. Wasn't the best defender, although some people were praising him against Anthony Edwards. And Edwards just dropped his nuts on your head this series. Jonathan Kuminga didn't do jack against him. So I really don't think he is a player that I want to see on this Golden State roster, especially not making close to $100+ million on his next contract. Logan Murdoch of The Ringer reported this a couple of days ago, and I didn't get to make a real video on it just yet, but here it is. He said, despite his talent, Kuminga's prosperity to look for his shot at the expense of the flow of Golden State's offense has irked the coaching staff. During a late-season game against the Blazers, I believe this is the second to last game of the season, team sources say Kerr was incensed after several instances in which Kaminga looked off Curry to create his own offense. Kuminga subsequently received DNPs, do not plays, in the Warriors' regular season finale against the Clippers, and then again in the play-in against Grizzlies. By the start of the playoffs, many within the organization wondered whether Kuminga, who is eligible for an extension, has played his last game as a Warrior. Well, what we do know is, we don't know whether or not he's staying or going, but what we do know is this organization is not on the same page. Clearly, Steve Kerr doesn't view him as the best puzzle piece that fits in this Warriors rotation on the court with Steph, on the court with Jimmy, on the court with Draymond, on the court with really a combination of any of those guys. Doesn't seem like he believes there's a fit there. But some players on the roster seem to like him, and we obviously know the guy up top, Joe Lacob, really, really likes him. Jimmy and Draymond had both said that ideally Kaminga would be back. I think Jimmy had said, the thought is that he would be part of the future plans. Steph had even said he's been dealt a really tough hand, and sure, he has been. But he hasn't really stepped up to the plate and been a consummate professional about it all. Joe Lacob, we know he loves him. We know he loves Jonathan Kuminga. He said, I'm a big fan of his, doubles down. And this is from a Marcus Thompson article from The Athletic. He said, Lacob's loyalty to Kuminga is well known. He was an influential voice in the 2021 draft choice and has remained a proponent of Kuminga through the highs and lows. It's nearly impossible to believe Lacob would let Kuminga sign an offer sheet elsewhere and walk away for nothing. A reunion between the two sides is still on the table, per league sources. That's insanity to me. But both sides are expected to explore sign and trade scenarios. So that would open up the market for Kuminga and theoretically give him and his contract a fresh start he desires at this point, while bringing the Warriors back rotation players of immediate value. The Warriors' decision makers believe they need more positional size across the board, center and elsewhere. So, it doesn't seem like it's the most likely scenario that Kuminga's back on the Warriors in 2025-2026. And regardless of how Joe Lacob feels about him or not, I just don't trust the guy's eye for talent. He's influential in taking Kuminga in 2021. He called James Wiseman the most can't-miss center prospects. It's Joel Embiid. He has zero eye for talent. I do not trust his judgment whatsoever on the prospect of young basketball players. And he needs to be less involved, honestly, in all seriousness. And the best part of this Marcus Thompson article was Lacob just hilariously defending his choices in the past. He said, I would hope our young players take another leap, talking about next year, and honestly insinuating that they're not going to trade a lot of these young cats. He said, I get very upset when I read all this crap on the internet. These comments by the people, this guy's crap, this guy's crap. The drafts were terrible. Bullshit. Our drafts were not bad at all. These guys are very young. They've had to fit in a very difficult situation with experienced players. It's not like they can just go out and put up numbers. So I think we drafted very well. we've got some good young players. What? Do you hear yourself? Yeah, we drafted a bunch of guys super high up in the draft, but we can't just expect them to go out there and put up in They're going to play in a really tough situation. They're going to play next to Steph Curry. Do you hear yourself? Has to be the easiest thing in the world to go out there and do. Play with Steph Curry. And you're sitting here acting like in total defense of these guys who can't dribble, can't shoot, can't defend, and can't pass. None of the guys that you have had an influence on selecting in the NBA draft have done anything or positively contributed to Steph Curry winning another NBA championship. And it's just downright criminal activity from Joe Lacob and the front office. No doubt about that. Need Lacob to be less involved, man, with these roster decisions. It is absolutely abysmal that he has as much say as he does, and they've performed as poorly as they have during these off seasons. Get him out of any type of war room the Warriors are going to run this offseason. Dunleavy, there's the keys, bro. Take them. If you want a perfect offseason video this week where we discuss everything that needs to happen for the Warriors to be in their best position possible to win a title in 2026, hit that thumbs up icon, like today's video, and we'll bring that to you ASAP. Make sure you are subscribed as well to the channel, youtube.com/WarriorsTV. We'll be bringing you the best Warriors content all offseason long. Hopefully, Joe Lacob doesn't make any more bullshit decisions. We'll see you guys all in the next one. And as always, let's go Dubs.